to it. Eugene asks the man to identify himself, and also, what is he doing in front of the door? The man gets in a ragged fashion, but soon stands valiantly, almost like a knight. Eugene tries to identify the being in front of him, and comes to the conclusion that it can't be a demon, as he can't detect a shred of life from him. If that is the case, this surely is an undead. With this information, Eugene snarls at him, and demands once again to identify himself, or else. With a raspy voice, the undead identifies himself as Hamel the Foolish. This information sends Eugene straight over the edge, and he is now extremely angry. Is Hamel the Foolish? What kind of nonsense is he spouting now? He is just a lowly Death Knight who has deluded himself into thinking that he is the great Hamel. However, Eugene can't ignore the facts. This is Hamel's grave, and maybe that Death Knight has his body. In a fit of rage, he demands that he take his helmet off, but the undead stands ever so proud, which makes Eugene charge at him with all of his might. Before he gets to him, Eugene jumps high into the air and asks, "Which absolute bastard dared to put him in that body?" With those final words, he tries to crash down on the undead, but he dodges, and immediately goes on the counterattack. Eugene has plenty of time to dodge, however, and with this missed attack, also the opportunity to attack him. But the attack doesn't go through, as the undead is protected by a mana shield. Or rather, since it's a Death Knight, it uses demonic force, so that is a demon force shield. The undead immediately gets on the attack, and Eugene finds time to defend himself, but the attack still sends him flying. He thinks that this thing is plenty strong, as his arms are really sore now, just from that one attack. The person who created this thing was probably Amelia Merwin herself, 6 years ago, when she opened the doors to the grave and made a Death Knight out of the corpse of Hamel. However, since there was no soul in the body, she had to put another in. If it is really like this, it means that he cannot hope to win at this point. If it's made by a dark mage as advanced as Amelia Merwin, then it might as well be as strong as the Patriarch of the Lionhearts, or even the Black Lion Knight Order captain. But even with all of this stacked against him, frankly, he just doesn't care at this point, as his heart is filled with rage. He activates his mana circle, and teleports behind him instantly, and attacks with a spear, which he manages to deflect. The attacks don't stop, however, and Eugene summons a large sword from his cloak, and attempts to crush the undead like a tin can, but he is too swift, and pushes Eugene right back. In one final attempt, Eugene tries to pull out something of the cloak quickly, but the undead notices, and stops the attack that was fast approaching. This attack was done with a spear, one of the many weapons Eugene is adept at. The undead stops for a second, and congratulates him for being so good at so many various weapons. Eugene tells him that, if he pretends to be Hamel, the least he could do is fix his tone, as he didn't talk like that, ever. The undead once again notes that his skills are admirable, but still, much too weak for someone like him. In that split second, he charges in, and tries to slash Eugene. This makes both of them exchange a few blows. However, unfortunately for Eugene, his weapon doesn't last for long, and the undead charges in, while saying that it's a shame, such a talented young man, dying by his blade. Before the attack can land though, the undead is pushed backwards, and wonders what this child did to him. That's when he spots that Eugene is brandishing a dagger, and comes to the conclusion that he simply parried the attack, an admirable skill. Eugene thinks that it was not only parrying, but also a bit of magic, as when he felt the impact from the attack approach, he aligned the sword soul with its mana wavelength to deflect it entirely. But that doesn't stop the impact from being devastating, as even with his perfect timing, he is not yet strong enough to deflect such a powerful attack. This is a fight that can't be drawn out, so he will have to end it now, even if it takes a lot out of him. He starts revving up his mana circle even further, and fights with all of his might against this tireless undead. He continues to fight and fight, even when his bones feel like are being cracked with every attack, and his muscles are being torn apart with every movement. For him, however, it doesn't matter, as he did a lot more in his past life with a body that was less able. So as long as his mental fortitude is fine, he can still fight, no matter what. Eventually, his sword breaks, but that's when he pulls out Wyniad and charges it with mana while charging in once again. While he was unsheathing Wyniad, Eugene thought that, even at the cost of his mana shield being weaker, he will have to concentrate every bit of mana straight into Wyniad. With that, they continue to fight, but Eugene doesn't give the undead time to react, as he relentlessly attacks him with every possible resource and charges an almighty attack as he really wants to see his face. This attack lands perfectly, and sure enough, the helmet that the undead brandished falls to the ground, in pieces. Eugene turns around and demands that the undead do the same. Reluctantly, it does so, and sure enough, that is the face of Hamel, which shocks Eugene to his core. He tries to play it off by noting that, as usual, he is still pretty hot-looking, even after these years. But unfortunately, the soul inside of that body is extremely ugly and tainting the good looks. This makes the undead rage, and it screams so loud it can be heard throughout the halls. In its rage, it throws the sword directly at Eugene and charges in instantly afterwards, making Eugene block a pretty hefty punch. Eugene retreats backwards and wonders why this guy got so fast all of a sudden, as all he did was drop his sword. This must be the nature of the soul, to fight without a weapon, as when he did, he was much weaker. But now what can he do, as a Death Knight can instantly heal most injuries given to them, so in order to kill one, their heart needs to be destroyed, no matter what. However, is he able to accomplish such a feat? He has been parrying all of his relentless attacks, and used all of his strength to just get one attack in. Additionally, if it wasn't for the white flame method, he would have ran out of mana long ago. All of these thoughts are pushing him back though, and all he needs to do is make it possible, even if it's not. The undead charges in once again, but this time brandishing a new kind of weaponry. Eugene tries to hit him with a few magic missiles like before, but the undead moves like a beast and dodges all of them. Eugene notices that now, his hands and feet are covered with demonic force, and with his savage combat style, the beast-like posture and the craziness in his eyes, Amelia must have put the soul of a lycanthrope inside of the body. The undead doesn't give him the time to think further, as he rushes to maim him. But Eugene pulls out the moonstone sword fragment and hits the undead's hand with it, which creates a small hole through his demonic claws, but doesn't stop him from attacking. He now knows that the most he can do is weaken the demonic force, not fully dissolve it. So now, he has to do things differently. They both charge at each other at the same time, and also deflect each other's attacks. Eugene, however, lets the undead land an attack on him, giving him the opportunity to immediately turn around and put the sword fragment next to the undead's chest, which makes him scream in sheer pain as the demonic essence slowly dissipates from him. He tries to retaliate with some blood-red beams, but Eugene doesn't falter, and eventually, the demonic force dissipates completely from its chest. Swiftly, Eugene hits him with his sword, and additionally, he also summons countless magic missiles and aims all of them into the undead's chest. Afterwards, the shard falls to the ground, and Eugene is also tired. He looks at the undead, which now has a gaping hole in its chest, and notes that, if he always had that disgusting thing in his chest, he shouldn't have dared to call himself Hamel. Instead of a heart, the undead that possesses the body of Hamel has a large red marble that protrudes out of his chest a little. He immediately covers it up in shame, and Eugene points it out, clearly trying to mock him. This makes the undead rush in while screaming, and he bashes Eugene with his shoulder, a move that sends both of them flying into a wall. This makes Eugene spit out a lot of blood, but even still, the insults continue. He is just a fool that thinks of himself as Hamel, but in reality, he is only a mere Death Knight, and not even human, but a lycanthrope, a beast, with no rhyme or reason. The undead affirms to himself that he is indeed Hamel, as it is probably lost in terms of identity, and is clinging to anything at this point. Eugene flips him off, which enrages the undead even further, so it grabs both of Eugene's shoulders with its beast-like demonic arms, and slowly pushes him to the ground. This makes Eugene truly wonder, is he going to die in this place? But it's not over quite yet, as he can't just die a dog's death after getting another chance at life. His arm shakes as he thinks of a certain move, one that would leave him unable to move for a long while, so he can't miss, no matter what. However, if he will use it, winning is a certainty, as he can rip this lowly Death Knight into mere pieces, and even utterly destroy him, so that he can't regenerate further. The recoil of this move, though, will incapacitate him instantly, and hurt a lot. There is no other choice but to do it, as he doesn't have the stats to go one-on-one with a Death Knight, but if he uses that, it will be his victory. He has no choice, but to use the ultimate skills of Hamel. Ignition. That's when, in an unexpected turn of events, Raman approaches the scene and watches in horror as Eugene is being pushed towards the ground. Eugene looks at him, and wonders what this blubbering fool is doing here, as he knocked him out specifically so that he could escape this place. Rahman unsheathes his sword and demands the beast to get away from the young master. With no other choice, the undead throws Eugene into a nearby wall. This allows Rahman to charge in using Sword Soul, but the moment the sword makes contact with the demonic barrier, it shatters into hundreds of pieces, leaving Rahman defenseless and at the undead's mercy. He tells Eugene to run, while he tries his best to keep him in place for as long as possible. Eugene smiles and asks what he's going to do, as that undead has him firmly in his grasp. Rahman is surprised that he can so casually laugh in a situation so dire, but it shows that he is truly an amazing man and an even better person. The undead, seeing him smile, is enraged, so he throws the lowly Rahman at him, which makes Eugene crash into a wall once again, something he now probably has to get used to at this point. Rahman helps him get up, and notes once again that he will make an opportunity for him to get away, so he should do so when he does. Eugene tells him that there is no need for that, as there is a door right behind them, one that might hold something important. The undead explains that the door cannot be opened, as he tried, but nobody can. Eugene says that what he just said makes him want to open it even more, and thinks that if he has to use ignition, he will. But first, he needs to check what is behind these doors. This is Hamel's grave, and he is Hamel, in soul at least. If Senya, or perhaps someone else, intended for this reincarnation of his, then this door that cannot be opened is meant for the owner of the grave, naturally. Sure enough, the door slowly opens, and before the undead can react, it sucks both Rahman and Eugene in, and immediately closes. Rahman tries to analyze the room, but Eugene immediately knocks him out, which to him is a mercy, as he could have just killed him because of how annoying he is. That's when he notices something that makes his eyes widen, and wonders why that Vermouth bastard left the sword here. 300 years ago, while on their quest, in Helmut, near the Demon King of Slaughter's castle, after the party decisively won against him, they were looking for any remaining subordinates, and ended up finding a stairway that led underground. Deep within, they find ancient relics, which could not be analyzed, as they were extremely ancient. Even Senya couldn't fully analyze them, and could only assume that he was from the age of myth. However, in the innermost location, they found the ever-so-powerful Moonlight Sword. At first, Hamel was the one to try and pick it up, as he broke a lot of weapons while fighting the Demon King of Slaughter, so he needed new weaponry. Unfortunately for him, however, he couldn't take the sword, because as soon as he approached it, he fell to his knees and immediately started to spew blood. In the end, the sword came into the possession of Vermouth, but he wonders now, leaving this sword here, is it some type of condolences for him? This is nothing to scoff at, that's for sure. The Moonlight Sword sure has a simple name, but it does the job, and it fits quite nicely. When Vermouth got a hold of this sword, he no longer used the sacred sword, but that was a given. The Moonlight Sword, even with its rather simplistic appearance, was much, much stronger than the sacred sword. Eugene stares at the moon symbol above it. When they first saw the Moonlight Sword, that symbol was a full moon, beautifully bright. But now, it's a crescent moon. Perhaps it is in a weakened state. Eugene tries to find the fragment he has, thinking that it might react to the sword. But that's when he remembers that he bashed the chest of the undead earlier and never managed to get it back. This makes him wonder why Vermouth left the sword here. Perhaps because he wanted it? That idiotic bastard. What would be the point of giving it to him after he died? Well, this is no time to get all sentimental, as in this room, there is only the Moonlight Sword, so if he leaves this place, he has to fight that creature once again, which is quite an insane venture. However, the undead isn't his only problem, as Amelia Merwin could return at any moment, so he needs to quickly get rid of the undead and bolt out of this place as fast as he can. He approaches the Moonlight Sword slowly and notes that he doesn't know what kind of idea Vermouth had to put the sword in his resting place. But realistically, there is only one reason it is here. To let him finally have it, right? In his past life as Hamel, he couldn't hope to touch this sword, but he reincarnated as a descendant of Vermouth, so it might be enough to hold it. Even if he can't, he has to, as Vermouth gave it to him. He reaches for the sword slowly, but he just barely touches the light that emanates from it, and his lungs start to feel heavy, and his mana is screaming at him to get out of this place. With no other option, he uses the white flame method to reach even further to it. Eugene thinks that it is incomparable to what he first tried to grab in his past life. So the story about the sword shattering into pieces was true. Eventually, he manages to grab the sword, but he gets pushed backwards almost instantly, with the sword still in his hand. Eugene is glad that he actually managed to get it this time, and gets up, as he has to remove its sheath. When he does, he is disappointed, but not surprised, as he finds no blade attached to the hilt, because the sword broke into pieces. That's when the crescent moon that was standing above it shatters into pieces, and slowly, the pieces form a blade for the moonlight sword, which now emanates a familiar blue glow. Eugene is very happy about this, and looks at the sword with a proud expression. He thinks that the moonlight sword is one that scatters all magic and mana around it, but it is swallowing up tons of his mana like he has been starving. Is it perhaps resonating with the white flame method? Additionally, due to the amount of mana this sword consumes, he can't use it at the moment, but he certainly has enough mana for it after he rests. He puts it in his cloak and notes that this sword is lowly, but also extremely nice, as even after it broke into 1,000 pieces, it is still powerful. With this new weapon, he won't need to use ignition. He will be able to slay the Death Knight with ease now. One last thing he has to do before leaving the room is check the casket. He does so, and sure enough, there is no body in sight, but he finds something else, some writing on the casket. Perhaps one day, they will meet once again, the world that they have both hoped for. Eugene recognizes this as Senya's handwriting, but that's when a bright green leaf forms in his eye, and his expression widens. Outside of the room, the undead thinks that he tried to break that door countless of times, with countless ways, but he could not put a scratch on it. Even his great master could not do so. That man, however, easily opened it, so he cannot kill him, but keep him alive, until his master comes back at least. His helmet has shattered into pieces, and his breastplate is gone. He also took out his claws, something which his master explicitly told him to not do, so she will be filled with rage once she finds out. He needs to prove himself useful to her, lest he be cast out and damned for eternity. Suddenly Eugene comes out of the room and asks the undead if he waited long for him. The undead immediately asks him how got in there, but Eugene says that he just did, simple as that. The undead once again asks him something, what he saw inside, but Eugene hushes him up, noting that it's a secret, one he will never tell. This makes the undead unleash his claws once again and rush towards Eugene, who is now prepared, as he has the moonlight sword by his side. Both the undead and Eugene look at each other, and Eugene dispels his demonic claws instantly with just a swing of the moonlight sword. This makes the undead back off instantly, and he seems quite puzzled by what just happened. His claws, that are made from demonic energy, should be unbreakable. So what did this child do? Eugene's head falls down while he's holding the sword, and he thinks that he tried to control the strength of the swing. But even with that, after one measly swing, he is out of breath, and his vision has become blurry. Additionally, this bastardly sword is also eating his mana constantly. However, he has to admit that its force is very satisfying, as he couldn't hit the undead, but he got his demonic force pretty good. The undead snarls at him, and comes at him while stretching his whole body. Eugene notices that he isn't using the demonic force anymore, and is probably planning to just fight with his fists only, something that is not wise at all. Eugene pulls out Winid, and that's when the undead jumps into action, moving extremely swift in 10 places at once, presumably trying to take Eugene by surprise. Eventually, he musters the courage to attack, but Eugene notices him, and the undead barely has time to get out of the way. Eugene notes that he is way too scared, as he hasn't even swung well yet. He uses this opportunity to use Winid, and engulfs the undead into a small tornado, and throws him into the wall. Eugene is not finished, however, as he uses the mana he has to pick up some stone fragments, and throws them at him constantly. Eugene says that if he was in a better physical state, he would have beaten him to a pulp until nothing remained. But now, he frankly doesn't have the time or energy. He smashes the ground with his foot and creates a large magical hand, which instantly rushes to grab the undead. He manages to dodge, but not before the hand taps him on the shoulder, which destroys his armor. He notices, and he seems to have had enough, as he unleashes a mighty scream and summons a different kind of demonic energy, one much more red and vicious. Eugene looks at this and tells him that he should have used this earlier, as then he would have saved energy. The magical hand comes back around and tries to grab him once again, but the undead deflects it just before it can grab him. However, this isn't the end of the attacks, as Eugene gets in front of him, and just before the undead can unleash his mighty attack, the moonlight sword fragment is thrown at one of his hands. Eugene smiles, as, since he has the moonlight sword in his hand, he can control the fragment however he wants to. This gives him but a moment to act, but that's already plenty enough for him. The undead notices that he's aiming for his core and tries to attack him, but Eugene moves faster and deals a great blow to his chest, something which sends him backwards. With this, the undead has been defeated, but Eugene isn't in a good state either, as he instantly starts vomiting blood on the ground. He thinks that he used as little power as possible for this guy, but still, he has used way too much mana for a normal person. However, this is much better than using ignition. Additionally, now that he has no mana left, the moonlight sword is gone, for now at least. He puts it in his cloak and approaches the undead, seeing that still, the core did not fully break, which means that the undead isn't quite dead yet. Eugene gnarls and feels very shitty about the whole situation, as this is just an insult to the dead. That scamp really dared to break into his own grave and make a death knight out of his body? No matter, he needs to destroy the core, take Rahman, and just get out while he can. Before the sword can fully reach the core, however, Eugene is frozen in place, as he can't move, almost as if an invisible power is tying him down. He smiles, as he knows who has just arrived, Amelia Merwin herself. She stands behind Eugene, who can't move a single muscle on his body, and can only use his mouth to speak. He is sure that he is able to speak, only because she allowed it. He asks to talk face to face at least, but she notes that now, she's just wondering what to do with him. She does have a few good ideas, but her favorite must be this one. She will be dragging him to the surface and throwing him into the hot, arid sand. Naturally, that couldn't possibly kill him, so she will make sure that his head is above the surface, so that he is able to take air into those lungs of his. After that, she will force his eyes and mouth to stay open, and due to the dry and hot area, his eyes will crack into pieces, and his tongue will become like dried up wood. After he has experienced that, he will become a scarecrow of the desert, as she will destroy his legs and twist them into one long string. Additionally, she will stick a few thin metal pieces into each of his fingers, something which might be too painful for someone like him. Suddenly, Eugene's body moves on his own, and he gets up. Amelia continues. Front the tips of his fingers, into his arms, across his broad shoulders, and his other fingers, so that he can keep his arms spread open, like a good scarecrow should. His eyes will already be broken by then, so he will not be able to see what is happening around him, but he will be able to feel it, that aching pain, the metal slowly becoming a part of him. Unfortunately for him, she won't be able to dull his pain, but at this point, she wouldn't want to. Eugene says that he will die from the shock by that point, but Amelia tells him that he won't, as she won't let him. That is how he is going to become a scarecrow for this part of the desert, for a very, very long while, until she is tired of seeing him like that at least. Finally, she asks if he knows who she is, and Eugene answers, she is Amelia Merwin. Amelia notes that he is correct. She is the desert's dungeon master, the Black Thorn, the Death Answer, that is her, in her entirety. She notices that he managed to break her pet. Granted, it was a rather useless being, but it was still hers, and only she can do whatever she wants to it, since she is the owner, be it torture, breaking, or killing it. Eugene notes that she has a rather gross and ugly pet. Why didn't she bathe it at least? Amelia smacks him across the head with her staff instantly, something which sends him back. She tells him that the only person who can say those things about her pet is only herself, as she is the owner. Eugene spits out some blood, but gets up on his own, as the spell seemed to be broken, so he might have a chance at an attack. He can't delude himself like this, however, as Amelia is on a whole another level, and he couldn't hope to kill her, even if he has time to use ignition. He did not want to use Balzac's letter, but now, he doesn't have much of a choice. He asks if she knows about Balzac Ludbeth, which makes her stare at him with an inquisitive stare. She does, but she doesn't seem to know why he is bringing up his name so suddenly. Eugene explains that he knows him personally, and he wrote him a letter to give to her if he were to ever come across her. He throws the letter into one of her hands, and she notices that indeed, he is speaking the truth, as this seal is Balzac's. But why would he write a letter for someone as puny as him? Does he even know what this letter means? Eugene says that Balzac told him, if he hands this to her, she would let him go, no matter what he did. Amelia explains that it's a little bit different from that, as long time ago, Balzac helped her with something. As payment, she promised to him a single favor, no matter what it be. That was a very valuable payment, even for someone as powerful as Balzac, as the ability to ask Amelia Merwin herself for a favor is something that happens too rarely. However, for entire decades, he did not ask her for a single thing, so he gets what she's insinuating, right? Since he has this, he now owns the favor, and can ask for one thing in Balzac's stead. As long as she can do it, it will be done. If he does not want to die, then he should ask to be spared, as she will not kill him. But she also won't let him go like this. She needs to know exactly why, how, and what he was doing in this place. Eugene seems to think for a bit, and finally comes to a conclusion. He asks her, the mighty Amelia Merwin, to off herself, right in front of him, and right now. This makes Amelia smile, as she previously told him that it would be anything as long as she can do it, and that she cannot do. Since it has come to this, she will be giving him two choices. If he doesn't want to talk at all, she will respect his decision and will kill him. However, if he wants to live, then she will let him. But he needs to tell her about everything that she wants to know. These two choices surprise Eugene, and she explains that he shouldn't worry, as she is not going to cripple him like she originally planned. And even if he chooses death, she won't torture him, as she plenty of ways to get him to talk. He has become an interesting subject for her. How did he get here? A place that not even the Sultan of this desert knows about. Only the desert mages here know of this place, so perhaps there was a rat amongst them who worked with him. That shouldn't have happened, but it doesn't matter now. Eugene wonders what to do, as if he asks for his life, she will get a confession out of him, no matter how he puts it. If she doesn't need to torture him for answers, she will use dark magic to get her answers, and at her level, he can't hope to resist against it. Amelia notes that he is thinking for a long time, so should she interpret this hesitation as his answer? Eugene thinks that another option is to use ignition and try to run, but she will most likely use the binding spell once again, so that's not a good plan. She says that she has become bored of waiting, so she will give him to the count of 3. That will be the allotted time to answer. 1. Eugene wonders if he should tell her about him being a Lionheart, but this fucking dark mage wouldn't even respect that name. 2. Should he just be honest about all of it? Tell her that he opened the door she couldn't, and found the moonlight sword within. But that's not great either, as even if she will spare his life, she will certainly take his sword. Before Amelia can count to 3, she stops and looks behind her, as the undead has risen. Eugene notices that he has an entirely different aura, that disgusting feeling. He knows it all too well. Amelia instantly bows down, and she asks, "What brings the mighty and benevolent demon king of incarceration in this most disgusting place?" He looks directly into Eugene's direction, and explains that he saw him through the eyes of Balzac before. Did he perhaps come to offer flowers to one of his ancestors' dearest friends? He is sure that he can see for himself, that the owner of this grave is Hamel, who was called the Foolish, but he was definitely not that. He was a strong and talented warrior, and also Vermouth's best friend. Eugene wonders what the hell he is talking about, but he's also annoyed that this thing is talking about Vermouth so casually. The Demon King of Incarceration notes that he knows all too well why he would consider him an enemy, but he and Vermouth have genuinely understood each other and built a real relationship. However, to enforce something that happened 300 years ago on a Descendant is rather silly of him. He respects the Lionhearts out of the friendship he had with the great Vermouth, but he will not demand respect from him. Now, he speaks directly to him. After Vermouth, for 300 years, he has seen a ton of Lionhearts come and go, but he believes that he is the only one, out of all of those, that is most like Vermouth. Amelia analyzes Eugene, and sure enough he seems to be a Lionheart, as he has all of the traits. She also notes that she didn't expect to see the great king in such a pitiful place, in the vessel of a puny death knight. So, he should tell her already. How is she supposed to take all of this into account? The Demon King of Incarceration notes that it's up to her, but she then asks, did he only come here to defend the cub of that bad lion? The Demon King of Incarceration notes that it is his friend's descendant, so he had to. Amelia says that this is no reason to oppress her freedoms, which he is supposed to respect fully. The Demon King of Incarceration explains that Vermouth is dead, has been for a long time, but his bloodline continues to live on, and especially this Eugene fellow, as he can see Vermouth in him. She should not take this the wrong way, as he still endears and respects her, but not as much as the great Vermouth. Amelia asks how he can respect someone who has been dead for so long, more than someone who is alive right now. She tries to get up, but the Demon King pushes her down instantly, which takes her by surprise. She looks at him with a rage-fueled expression, and the Demon King of Incarceration says that her freedom cannot possibly transcend her respect for him. Previously, he has respected her freedom to do whatever she wishes to in Hamel's grave, and he still does. But if she truly wishes to harm Vermouth's descendant, he cannot accept that, for now at least. Eugene notices what he just said, and asks, what does he mean by for now? Amelia tells him to be more polite to the great king, as his arrogance is showing. The Demon King of Incarceration explains that 300 years ago, he made a promise with Vermouth, as he knows, and 300 years is a long time for humans. For all of those years, he has shown courtesy and generosity to Vermouth's descendants. He accepted it as fact that they did not show him the same kind of generosity and respect. However, he cannot have people think that it is an obligation to be nice to them. He is the Demon King of Incarceration, ruler of countless demons, and Helmut's king. Eugene starts shaking uncontrollably, as even this talking is making him tremble, and his heart tightens in his chest. The Demon King continues. Naturally, with freedom comes a sense of responsibility, as without it, freedom is just self-indulgence, something which he is not keen of. So, by his command, he will relay what he is saying not to all the Lionhearts. If they will not muster enough courage to respect him, he will no longer be giving them the respect he has up until now. Eugene sees clear as day that this is a warning, and asks, why is he telling him this now, after 300 years of silence? The Demon King of Incarceration explains that his ancestor made a promise, but the payment was freedom, however. That promise is coming to a close. The wheel that Vermouth has stopped for so long is about to begin turning once again. There will be a need for another promise, one day. So who will be able to make that promise in Vermouth's stead, and stops that wheel from turning once again? Eugene asks what the promise was, and the Demon King looks at him for a second, before grinning widely. He does not have the right to know that, since he is not Vermouth, but only a foolish lion. His existence, or rather his very soul, all of this, was because of Vermouth's promise, that he could be born 300 years later. Eugene is extremely shocked by this revelation, and his pendant glows. The Demon King of Incarceration also tells Amelia to go back to her dungeon, but she doesn't want to, as she still has questions for this lion cub. He notes that she will not find any answers from him, but she doesn't want to believe it, as her pet was basically destroyed, and he also easily opened the door that she tried to, but no matter what, she couldn't. He looks around for a door and teleports the three of them to it. With one flick of his hand, he disintegrates the door and tells her to look. There is only Hamel's grave inside. Nothing ever happened here. Amelia knows all too well that now, he just basically told her to stand down, or else. Amelia asks if he likes the vessel he is wearing now, as she will give it to him if he does. The Demon King of Incarceration notes that his business around these parts is done, so he will be returning Hamel's body. She asks if he's sure, as that is the body of Vermouth, his best friend actually. The Demon King of Incarceration says that indeed it is, but Hamel is not his friend. In that moment, the body slowly falls as the Demon King removes his presence from it. While getting up, Amelia tells Eugene that he got very lucky, but next time, he won't. She gets the essence from the body of Hamel and walks away, thinking that she can't do anything to that brat now. But someday, soon, she will make sure to kill him once that promise is over, and in truth, she just can't wait for it. After she is gone from that area, Eugene's fist shakes uncontrollably, as his veins pop out from rage. He unleashes a mighty scream and starts smashing every wall and pillar he is in visual contact with. He remembers how the Demon King of Incarceration called him a foolish lion. He knows, that fucker knows that he was reincarnated. He also remembers what he said about him reincarnating, that it was because of Vermouth's promise, But just what could that mean? Did Vermouth make the promise in order to have him reincarnated? That wouldn't be possible, however, as Vermouth knew him all too well, and if he wanted to do something for him, he would have chosen to kill this damned demon king of incarceration. Additionally, from what he gathered, the promise was made for peace, and it had nothing to do with the reincarnation. Lastly, he remembers how he said that Hamel isn't his friend, but the feeling is more than mutual at this point. Amelia took his old body away. Unfortunately, he was not able to fully annihilate it. Also, what did that demon king bastard imply about the wheel, and how it will soon start to turn again? He always speaks in riddles, like some type of wise being, but he doesn't intend to make any promise to stop that wheel. If that wheel only rolls over manure and mud, it should be destroyed, not stopped. However, if his reincarnation wasn't Senya's or Anissa's doing, but Vermouth's, he's quite surprised. He didn't expect him to do something like that at all, as he didn't seem the type. He pulls out a leaf from his cloak and starts to piece the story together. Some 200 years earlier, after Vermouth was long dead, someone invaded his grave, and Senya realized, so she came all of the way here to stop that person. Senya fought that invader valiantly, but soon after, disappeared. This leaf that he found in front of Hamel's coffin is something he recognizes, as it is from the World Tree. One of these leaves allows a person to teleport to the Elven Fortress, no matter where they are. Did she use this because she was in so much danger? But who could actually corner the great Senya like that? The only person he can think of is Vermouth. But if it was really Vermouth who fought with her, what would really be the reason for it? He remembers the first time he met the party, Senya scoffed and complained at him, noting that he was just some everyday mercenary. Anise instantly insulted him, saying that he looks like he has no sense of real class, and she is sure that there are more valiant people than him. Moron, of course, was a moron, so he only said that he wanted to fight the warriors from this kingdom, as they seemed strong. Even after all of this, though, Vermouth insisted that Hamel became his companion, something which Hamel rejected. He doesn't intend to bow down to someone weaker, so they will fight now. Unexpectedly, Hamel fell in a few short minutes, but he did not falter, and they fought again and again until the sun was about to set. Eventually, Hamel asked, why does he even want him to come? Vermouth explained that he will be his companion if he wins, so he has won. Wasn't that the promise? Hamel said that he doesn't get it. If he is the warrior of light, somebody who is destined to save the world, why does he need him specifically? Vermouth approaches him and told him that he needs him and his power in order to destroy all of the demon kings. So he should come with him and become a savior of this world. Eugene thinks about it further. If the reincarnation and the necklace were Vermouth's doing, he would have been able to place the necklace in the Lionheart treasury with ease, as he was the founder of the family. But it's too early to confidently say that this is what happened. The illusion of Senya he saw, and the handwritten words on his gravestone, those must also mean something. Perhaps one day, we will meet in the world you hoped for. That was written. And if it wasn't referring to heaven, but his reincarnation, did Vermouth betray Senya for some reason? He doesn't know, and honestly, doesn't even want to think that this is true. But in order to find out what happened, what really went on in this place, he needs to find Senya. Much later, the Kajitan of Emir stares at Eugene and hopes that, at least he knows that what he is asking is too much. He heard about him from his subordinates, the ones who retreated, but does he truly think that he sent them out to steal from him? Eugene notes that he could give less about their intentions. The truth is that they harmed him, or attempted to, at least. The Kajitan explains that all of this was to protect him, and only that. If he is not aware already, Nahama and Keel are not on great terms. Not at all, as Keel's emperor is scared about Nahama's power. And the Sultan also holds resentment against Keel too. He thinks that the mages of the desert, who are constantly progressing this damned desertification, are hiding at the very end of the desert. If this child somehow was able to come across them, then the scorpion would have come there too. The Kajitan notes that him protecting him so well is basically Nahama bowing down to Keel, at least for once. He also had to figure out what he was doing there. But truly, why was he heading towards the barren Kajitani desert, where nobody lives? Eugene says that he did not come all this way to be interrogated by him, and the Kajitan notes that this is precisely why. He can't hope to start interrogating someone like him, so he had his subordinates follow him so that they could protect him if something were to occur. If Rahman had properly carried out the orders he had been given, they would not be having this awfully awkward conversation right now. He understands that he feels bad about this situation, but from what he has gathered from the others, they kept a pretty good distance from him. Yet, he was the one that attacked. Eugene smiles and thinks that this guy isn't bringing up the assassins or the desert mages to boot, so he doesn't know that Hamel's grave and Amelia Merwin are in the Kajani Desert. What a puppet. However, there is no need to tell him all of this, so he will just solve this as he does and back off. He notes that if he is right, then he misunderstood the situation, which is his fault, but that doesn't explain the whole situation to his family. What will they say when they see him like this? The Kajitan doesn't know what he is trying to tell him, and Eugene clarifies. Even if somehow all of this was just a simple misunderstanding, it is true that he has endangered him. So if he explains all of this as a misunderstanding, he doesn't know what his family will do. The Kajitan's voice starts to tremble, and Eugene explains that he doesn't want this to become a bad situation either, as it could lead to a problem between two entire nations, and he doesn't want to put his dear family in a tough situation only because of this. The Kajitan finally gets it, and asks what, or how much he wants. Eugene asks for a simple 500 million cell. He thinks that this is a pretty cheap price for repairing their relationship, which is filled with misunderstandings. The Kajitan notes that for someone so young, he sure is very bold, which is not a bad trait at all. He will have the money, if that is the only way to appease his anger. Since they have settled this amicably, he has to ask just one more thing before he goes. Truly, what did he see in the Kajani Desert? Eugene says that there was only desert, and more desert, as he said previously. There is nothing there. He thinks that the coffin, statue, and memorial stone, all of them he put in his cape, so really there is nothing left remaining. Even the Sultan of this place doesn't know about Hamel's grave, so as long as that damn Amelia keeps her mouth shut tight, what happened there remains there, and will never get out. He also tells the Kajitan that he will be taking Rahman with him, as he has to make him pay for threatening his life. The Kajitan says that if he wants to do that, he can make him easy for him and have him executed right here and right now. Rahman feels betrayed, as this is the master that he has followed through thick and thin. Eugene explains that he is not that merciless and doesn't want to see his head roll over something so trivial. He is just going to bring him back home and make him scrub their toilets or something. The Kajitan says that it's as he wants it to be, and so their conversation ends. While walking to his next location, Eugene remembers a conversation he had with Anis in a field filled with dead soldiers. She said that sometimes, in times like these, she has doubts. If their mighty God truly is omnipotent and all-knowing as it is told, then why does he let these young soldiers of him bleed like this? Hamel told her to stop, as it is clear as day that she is drunk. Anis continues, however, if God truly is a light that chases away all of the darkness, then why doesn't he do just that? That's when Hamel noted that they have Vermouth. He does not know anything about her God of light or complicated stuff like that, but he does know that Vermouth is one strong guy. So if she wants to look at it like this, God could not take care of this world by himself, and so he sent Vermouth, the living miracle, to help. That is why he is a valiant warrior, and why the sacred sword acknowledged him instantly. Anis did not expect such kind words from someone like him, but Hamel didn't do it out of kindness. He is just really annoyed with her, as he has to listen to her drunk tales over nothing. So she should hand some of that drink over, instead of drinking alone, like a sad drunk. Anis clenched her flask tight, and noted that this is not alcohol, but holy water, that could not be given to somebody who lacks faith, like him. That's how they started bickering about it, and in hindsight, that was pretty fun. Eventually, Eugene arrives at his location, the sacred ground of light, Hogani, where Anis's statue is located. If he were to take a shot from the Holy Empire Eurus across the ocean, he would arrive here. 200 years ago, Anis sent a prayer right here, before starting her pilgrimage, to the very end of the desert. He thinks that Anis came to his grave to pay respects. However, Senya's retirement and Anis's pilgrimage do not overlap completely, as Senya retired a few years earlier. Then, Anis chose to go on a pilgrimage. Anis couldn't have visited his grave, it seems, as if she had, she would have definitely done something about the state that he found it in. Was Vermouth also somehow involved in the disappearance of a niece? He could not find anything important in this place, so the only clue he has now is this leaf that Senya left behind. Rahman sheepishly grabs his attention and asks if he has changed his mind about going back. Eugene claims that he hasn't, and they are definitely going back to Kiel now. Kayan eagerly waits for him, as he wants to see just how strong he grew in the 2 years that he was gone. Kayan looks at the portal with a certain unease, and his mother notes that he seems unhappy with his brother coming back. Kayan explains that he wants him to come back, but he also doesn't want that at the same time. If Eugene really wants to become the patriarch, he will most likely have to give up and surrender the position to him. His mother says that as long as he does not back down, Eugene won't become the patriarch. He has no need to. Kayan asks truly, is this what is best for the Lionhearts? The patriarch position should be given to the strongest amongst the family. His mother notes that he is no longer a child, but a grown man. He can make these decisions on his own. Becoming the patriarch or surrendering the position, it's all his choice. Kayan looks at the ground and notes that this is not what she truly wishes for. His mother sighs, as it seems she has raised him too strictly. She regrets it now, as she doesn't want to end up like Theonis. She does not want her children to suffer over her greed, like Iode has. Kayan says that he is much different than that guy, and his mother notes that indeed he is, so now he can make the right choice. What he chooses, that will be the right choice, and she will respect it fully. Additionally, Eugene is now his brother, so even if they are not related by blood, they are still brothers. He should talk with him once he arrives, as the whole succession thing can wait. Eventually, Eugene arrives, and notes that he was going to see them all back at the house anyways, so why did they come out all the way here? His father immediately jumps on him, and Eugene says that it's been a while, and he seems to have worked out a ton, as his body is very sturdy. He has also grown a large beard. The father rubs his eyes and notes that it's thanks to Sterod. Eugene remembers that guy, he is Gargus's father. Are they really close enough now, for him to refer to him by his first name? He also notices Anasilla behind his father, and bows down, while apologizing, as he did not see her. She tells him to not be so awkward around her, as they are family. Eugene looks around, and notices that the patriarch is nowhere to be seen. Anasilla explains that he is at the Black Lion Castle, because of the coming-of-age ritual. He knows about that, right? Eugene remembers that the blood secession ritual, which he was a part of, is attended by both direct and indirect lineages. However, the coming-of-age ritual is only for the direct lineage children. Anasilla notes that it was Iode, who is 2 years older than him, that should have gone through the ritual last time, but now he is basically estranged, so the last ceremony was skipped due to this. But now, there are 3 children, himself, Kayan, and Seal, who will become fully fleshed adults next year, so that ceremony will be much more fun, it seems. That's when Rahman comes out from the portal too, and Anasilla asks who he is. Eugene explains that he is his subordinate, Rahman, and he is 32 years old. He has personally picked him, and he's trustworthy. He is not teaching him or anything, but he will be working some random jobs for his sake. He calls over Nina, who has also grown, and tells her to start teaching him about cleaning. The barn and tourney hall needs some, and she should put him to the more strength-based tasks, as he has enough. Nina is taken back by this, and asks if that is okay, as he is his subordinate after all. Eugene tells her that this is exactly why he will do as he is told, and also tells Rahman that from now on, Nina is his senior. Rahman laments having to treat someone much younger than him as his senior, but still, all of this is for the young master Eugene. This way, he will also pay him back for saving his life. Surely, a day will come when he is needed, and on that day, he will risk his life for him, as a true warrior should. Kayan grabs Eugene's attention, and notes that if he's done, they should go and talk about some things. While they walked throughout the forest, Kayan strangely asks, "Just what is he?" Eugene naturally doesn't know how to respond to this, and asks just what the hell he is talking about. Kayan asks if he truly is 19, like he says, and Eugene notes that, if he wants the truth, he is actually a reincarnation of someone very important. Kayan tells him to stop lying, and Eugene can't help but laugh, as even though this is the truth, he doesn't believe him. He also asks why. Is he really that shocked at how powerful his brother has become? Kayan looks at him with a saddened expression, and explains that it was 2 years. They haven't seen each other for 2 entire years, yet it feels like he has lived 20 instead of 2. He tried with all of his might. While he was learning magic, he trained the sword day in and day out, and also reached 3 stars this way. But all the while, Eugene reached the 4th star already. His expression sours, and he tells Eugene to become the patriarch instead of him. Eugene asks why the sudden change. Did he not want to become patriarch? Kyan notes that, after seeing his face, he cannot handle it anymore. How can he become the patriarch, the leader of the family, when he is obviously so much better than him, in every aspect? Eugene asks why not, as he can just be the patriarch if he says that he will. He has no competition. Kyan just can't accept something like that, and Eugene suggests that they can have a duel if he wants him to have the position. If he wins, then he will accept any decision he makes. Kyan is confused by this, as wouldn't it make more sense for him to become patriarch if he wins? Eugene says that he is smarter than he expected, which anger Kyan. But still, he should become the patriarch, as that position is for somebody with ambition, and he also doesn't want such an annoying position to drag him down. If he really wants him to change his mind, the only way he will be able to do it is by force. Kyan sighs and notes that instead of a duel, they should just have a proper spar, like they used to. They both go to the sparring area, and the servants watch in awe, as Kyan is desperately trying to hit Eugene even once, who is not even breaking a sweat. Eugene notices that Kyan is able to control his sword soul quite easily, and can also maintain it for a long while. His mana proficiency has become much better, probably because he reached 3 stars. Somebody with as much mana as him is probably extremely rare in this continent. Kyan thinks that this is strange, as he got tired too fast. It is like he is swinging his sword at a rock. Eugene's sword seems to deflect his every attack, but at the same time, it sends his sword where he doesn't want it to be. One of the servants says that it's no use, and wonders, if he were to fight with everything he got, while also using sword soul, could he be able to win? Hazar comes from behind them, and notes that it is unlikely. Master Eugene was strong 2 years ago too, but now, he is overwhelmingly so. Although Kyan has also gotten much stronger than he was previously, Eugene is taking all of those swift attacks without moving at all. Eugene sends Kyan back with a powerful parry, which makes Kyan asks about the technique, as it deflected all of his attacks. Eugene says that it's just some regular parrying, but Kyan doesn't believe it, as he parried his sword soul perfectly. He did not bounce it off, but rather let it slide off. Eugene notes that he has some pretty good eyes, and Kyan asks for him to tell him more about it. Eugene looks at him for a second, and then his expression changes into an evil one. Really? Does he truly want to learn from him? Kyan remains patient, while he almost breaks the sword in half, but Eugene says that he will teach him, as if he becomes strong enough. Him becoming the patriarch won't be an issue any longer, right? However, there are too many people around here, so they should go somewhere more private. They go somewhere more isolated, and Eugene explains that no matter what he does, he won't become stronger than him, but he will accept being the patriarch if he's strong enough. Is that the case? Kyan says that it is, but still. Eugene exclaims that there is no but. Even if he pushes that title on him, he will not become the patriarch, because he simply doesn't want to be one. Kyan thinks that he offered him the position a total of 3 times already, but he keeps rejecting. He notes that if this is his choice, then he can't argue with it. He is skilled, but doesn't have the qualities of a patriarch, and also didn't go through the proper lessons, so he is not prepared. He keeps yapping and yapping until Eugene kicks him in the shin, as he was just spouting bullshit. Kyan calms down, and asks when he's going to be taught the skill, right now? Eugene says that he is busy, so he can't teach him currently, but he will write it down and give it to him. If he trains hard enough and reads that thoroughly, he will be able to learn it in no time. In Mount Euclid, an old and rather rough mountain located south of Kiel, Vermouth, the greater of the Kiel Empire, gave up on his title and moved to a house in the capital. But even after 300 years afterwards, Euclid remains Lionheart territory. The Black Lion Castle is also located at the peak of said mountain, and this is the place Vermouth lived in the most, and also where his corpse lies. The different members are attending a meeting, and the patriarch announces to everyone that Eugene has just returned to the main residence. One of the members notes that this is very nice timing, as there are only 2 months remaining in this year. The patriarch says that if this is the case, there is no need to summon him to this place. But the other member tells him that he was the one who did something so unexpected. A child of indirect blood was taken into the main residence. That is something that has never happened throughout their history. The patriarch thinks that he has seen this man ever since he was a boy, but he still feels uncomfortable about him. This is the oldest man in the family, and also the head of the Senate, called the White Lion of Immortality, Doiner's Lionheart. He says that naturally the child has proved his worth, but things have been rather messy around him. Carmen says that she also met that child when she went to Aroth. So why is it a problem that he is from an indirect family? What is important here is his potential, and only that. Doiners looks at her with a powering expression, and notes that even she has good enough insight that cannot represent the Black Lion, no matter what. So, he will check for himself during the coming-of-age ceremony, which he looks forward to. Doiners explains that the entire Senate agrees that the child, Eugene, has tons of potential. That is precisely why they permitted the current patriarch to adopt him and nurture him at the main residence. However, he will also become a fully fledged adult in 2 months, and that is when they will begin the process of choosing the next patriarch. He also heard that he visited Nahama, coming back only now, and the patriarch notes that he's correct. Doiners notes that even before that, he learned magic in Aroth at the Red Magic Tower, so he must be quite talented in that subject too. Well, he was talented enough to make the Red Magic Tower Master take him as his impromptu disciple, and he even had a few talks with Aroth's prince from what he's heard. He then tells the patriarch directly that they are those who possess the Lionheart name and are a pack of lions. So it's okay for the patriarch to raise his children based on what he wishes. However, letting a lion be raised and then leave the pack on his own just because he wants to is disrespectful to their culture and unacceptable. Gillard then looks at him sternly and says directly that decision is on him to make. He should not be controlled and tossed around. Doiners notes that naturally it is so, and he will respect the child's choices, but he will have to restrict his choices for the safety of the family. Judging by his tone, though, was he planning to recommend that child for the patriarch position? Gillard says that if this is what he wants, then he will leave him the possibility to. Carmen notes that he doesn't want to. She just talked with Seal, and she said that Eugene is refusing the position outright. This makes Doiners smile, and hope that he doesn't change his mind about this. Later, Eugene gets informed by Anasilla that they will both be going to the Black Lion Castle, something which is strange. As usual,